Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talk and they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby.
What's up, BSers?
What's up, peeps?
The whole crew in the house tonight.
After a week hiatus,
Fred, Scott, Ryan, James, and Drew.
we'll call it hiatus-ish. We went live last week.
We were still, quote unquote, working, right? Off-site.
It was developmental research.
Yeah, exactly. It was a good time up there in Bowie. Hopefully you guys tuned in at least for a couple minutes while we went live for...
Don't let HR know we were drinking and working.
That's right.
We purposely drove to the only. We purposely drove to the only winning team in town and still watching L.
Yeah. That is true.
It sucks.
That's true. There was a lot of good to take, from that game, though. We'll talk about that. As we got a lot to talk about on this week's show. Obviously, it's been 2 weeks for us. So we got a lot to catch up on. The Ravens, I thought Sarah Ellison put out a good tweet earlier today that we're going to dive a little into. Ravens have some players that are all kind of heading into the final year of their contracts. So we're going to talk a little bit about who we think might stick around, who might not.
Yeah, I'm interested to see everybody's take of where everybody lands, especially some big players that
Right.
we've been talking about. The Orioles, God, the Bats at the major league level, they are major league ready.
Doing well.
The pitching, not so much.
Not so much.
On any level.
No.
Whether it's
bad.
starting pitching or the bullpen,
Very
it's
bad.
just horrible.
Very bad. The Terps got some new commits recently, while a certain redhead alumni made a big splash in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, it was exciting to see. I'm curious to get everybody's take on that and just the he's not the single Terp. Remember that.
But he's redheaded, so he's special.
Exactly.
Before we do too much, though, we do want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident, we're sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH. The Maryland Personal Injury Attorneys that'll have your back. If you find yourself in an unfortunate situation just like I have, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We own all the costs of medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering. It all adds up quickly and can potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, well, save this number now. 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including tickets to some Oriole and minor league games. All right, Scott. So let's get into some Ravens news.
Yes.
Before we get into the nuts and bolts of what I kind of want to digest, some news that came out today around training camp.
We can go!
Right,
Yes!
as we are starting to count down the days, fans are actually going to be welcomed back in Owings Mills to training camp. It's going to be a total of 12 open practices starting the end of July 28th, running through August 16th. They're also going to have the one stadium practice that you usually try to do every year.
Yeah.
I guess the caveat here is they're only allowing roughly about 1,000 to the training facility, down from around 2,000 previously. So if you've ever been, which if you haven't gone and you are any kind of fan of the Ravens and you really just want to get a good feel of what this team looks like, man, it's really a good experience. You get up close and personal. You really get to see the different position groups break down individually. There used to be a lot of interaction with the players and fans and kids and things where you used to be able to get autographs. Unfortunately, they are taking that away this year. They're just trying to limit some of the close social interaction, I guess, with all that. But either way, they are still allowing fans to come back.
Yeah, I think they said no mask required too, which obviously the lifting from
encouraged,
the
but not allowed, not required.
Exactly. I think it's good to see. And look, it's 2,000 people in that area. It was at times, especially if they were only working on the big backfield.
Yeah.
It was a little tight.
Crammed.
It gets a little crammed in that area. So it's to think, okay, wow, that was only 2,000 people. You cut that in half. I mean, That's pretty good. You're gonna be able to distance from everybody.
Right.
You know, you're gonna be more than arm's length away from everybody there. But then if they break off in the position groups, that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
Is how will they handle all that? Will they allow everybody to go over to the backfield, or will they force you to go into the three sections of the stands? And guys, if you haven't been there, like Fred said, trying to find a way to get there. It's awesome to see. Regardless of whether it's the player interactions, there's things that Fred and I saw. And we talked about on the show because you get a little bit of insight as, ooh, that's maybe that's why that guy's not starting.
Right.
You know, we talked about Ben Powers, and when last time we went, we were like, ooh, he's not doing what we thought this kid would do.
Right.
And here we are 2 years later, still not doing what we thought he would do.
Yeah, that's true. It's just a good way for you to get a glimpse of things that are working on. Like, unfortunately, recently, the Ravens have announced that they're not going to allow media to videotape Lamar Jackson in the passing game or any of that. So if you're wanting to see what these new route concepts and what this new offense might look like prior to the preseason, this is where your chance to get a really good glimpse.
So, straight honesty here. Did you have any problem with this? Because they've always allowed, even their own media team has been allowed to do it. But the interesting caveat to this whole thing is even their own media team is not allowed to film him throwing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were saying, well, it's because of the blunder that the Ravens social media team had with the pass to Sammy Watkins that looked like a dead duck.
Ugly.
It was ugly. And listen, the Ravens social media team is the cream of the crop. They are the best of the best. That was not a good look for their resume, right? Like, that was the one mistake that I've seen them make in the years, because they are the elite of elite as far as social media team, in my opinion. I don't think them not allowing people to film has as much to do with that as it is all of these changes that are going on with the offense, right? The new route combinations, the new scheme, the new plays. I really don't think that the Ravens, especially being in a win now mode, want to give any kind of information or any kind of glimpse as to what that is prior to preseason if they don't have to.
So two things with that. One, anybody that thinks that the Ravens themselves didn't see that lame duck throw going out there,
right?
That was put out there.
Maybe.
That was put out there.
Maybe.
Well, they're not. If they were concerned about his throwing, they wouldn't let that get out there, because then that's tape of, whoa, he's
or maybe just one slipped in that they didn't mean to. Oops, and now it's out there and it's everywhere.
Yeah. Oops.
Maybe.
Slid across the table. This one just say, yeah, you can use this one.
And right now, maybe the fact is, you see that go out, and maybe Lamar gets offended because they are in negotiation contracts, and he doesn't like being seen as somebody that can't throw the ball and could hurt his value.
That's a
so
good
there
point.
could have been an argument on that too. What are you guys trying to make me look bad putting a video like that out? That was my one bad pass that day.
Right.
He got it to you got to get, as a quarterback, you got to get it into the radius, the catch radius.
Yeah.
It was in the catch radius. I don't care how it looked. There's plenty of NFL quarterbacks in their career that have thrown lame ducks.
Yeah.
On good throws.
And a very good quarterback, I've said this before, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was one of the worst as far as throwing a tight spiral, and he made a hell of a career out of it himself. So I think Lamar is fine. I really think that this just came down to, again, it being a new concept, new route combinations, all of that getting interjected, and they don't want to feed that out there if they don't have to.
It's interesting you say that. Did you guys see Get Up this past week? It was like last Wednesday or Thursday with Booger McFarland. And he was asked straight out.
And I don't like bringing up Booger McFarland in any good context.
I originally, because I wanted the joke, I originally had Booger McFarland sticking his nose where it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, but it was fail. We had that on here at some point. We took it off for the sound.
Such a dad.
But he was asked, what does it take for the Ravens to become elite? And what he says is what we've been saying, and he's not wrong on this.
Well, everyone focuses on Lamar, and I get it, but to me, it's more of a philosophical thing. The Ravens want to run the football. They want to pound and ground and be physically dominant. They have to change their mindset. How do you become more explosive? How do you become less predictable? How do you put your quarterback in some advantageous situations? Let's be honest. When you run the ball at an elite level, it should be really easy to throw the ball, and here's why. Because as a defender, I have to commit extra people and extra safety to stopping the run. Therefore, it's really one-on-one coverage on the outside or some form of 3-deep zone, which is single high safety, not to get into the weeds, but it becomes easier to throw the football when you can run it the way they do. So they just got to change their philosophy. Early on, throw the football. The best down to throw the football in the NFL is first down. Throw it on first down. Give your quarterback some very easy looks, and then become more explosive, because Lamar is going to get the blame. Lamar is going to get the credit, but it's more of a philosophical standpoint that they have to have as an organization. This is how we want to play. Until they change that, it's really going to be unfair to blame Lamar or blame the receivers.
It's exactly what we've been saying, right? The scheming is not there, regardless of what the receiver core has been. Yeah. We all chomped at the bit for a number one receiver because it takes away the excuse, right? For what's his face? I want him gone so bad.
Miles Boykin?
No.
Greg Roman?
Greg Roman. Jesus Christ. But I think he brought up a good point there about first down. So I went looking. They threw a league low 42.6% on first downs.
Yeah.
A league low. It was only the Ravens and the Patriots under 50%, and the Patriots were at like 49. They were the only two teams under 50%.
Yeah.
That tells you something.
No, it does. And here's the thing. Like, I agree with what he said. I do think that there need to be some philosophical changes, and they're all things that we've talked about. It's all the reasons that they brought the new coaches in to help with all that. But the Ravens, when they did throw the ball, they weren't bad at throwing the ball. They just didn't do it enough, and they didn't take advantage of those single coverages that he's talking about. And I think that's what's got to change. Is we got to see a more complex route tree. We got to see something that looks more than just an elementary offense in the pass game.
It has to be a more balanced attack.
And balance, yes. It does. Again, we're not looking for balance. We're looking for more balanced than what we had. This team is built to be the ground and pound that he's talking about. But when the opportunities are there to take the top off of the defense because you have that one-on-one coverage, then you need to be able to do that.
What is that? Dan Trombetta.
Love it. Appreciate the donation, man. Appreciate that.
But yeah, no. So like when you look at what he's saying there and you look at those stats, I think it goes to everything we've been saying. And it's interesting coming from Booger, because I really hated to admit that he was right in this situation, because it's on the national stage, it's getting national attention, and everybody is calling for it. But he sums it up really well. If you don't have a philosophical change right now, you can't put it all on Lamar. You can't put it all on the receivers.
Right.
If the receivers aren't getting the chances, what are they going to do?
Right. You got to create opportunity.
When you got third and 8, 3rd and 9. I wonder what we're going to do here.
Right.
George, it's going to be a throw.
Right.
Like, come on now. You got to look at that. I think the number on the first downs. Does anybody in that room, was anybody surprised by that? 42.6% on first downs as far as throws?
Maybe I was a little surprised by like the number, but like being in last on that category, I'm not surprised at that.
Yeah. And when you look at the two teams at the bottom, the Patriots and the Ravens, you think of their two quarterbacks, Lamar and Cam Newton, right? Guys that have traditionally made their mark with their feet. Not to say that they can't throw. Cam is questionable at this point in his career whether he can throw the ball. But we know Lamar can throw. I think his limitations comes from Greg Roman.
Nick Short, if they solve the passing problem, they go to the Super Bowl. AB wouldn't hurt either. He gets the AB comment every week.
I love it.
Oh, man.
So moving on, another thing that I wanted to talk about was a topic that I thought Sarah Ellison on Twitter, if you don't follow her, she's a great follow. Sarah Ellison, she used to work for the Ravens. She brought up a good point. She said there's a list of about 10 players that are going into their final year of their contract this year, right? 10 players, when you think of a starting roster, right? 11 on offense and 11 on defense, that's damn near half of your starting roster, especially when you look at these names, right? Yeah. You get down this list, you've got tight end Mark Andrews, cornerback Anthony Averett, which he's not a starter yet.
Right.
Offensive lineman Bradley Bozeman, Calais Campbell, Deshaun Elliott, Pernell McPhee, Pat Ricard, Jimmy Smith, Sammy Watkins, and Brandon Williams. Literally Anthony Averett. So 9 out of those 10 are legitimate starters. And Anthony Averett could be one of those guys that,
A
depending
bubble
upon
type
how
guy.
he's playing, he might earn starter money elsewhere that might play his way out of Baltimore. So there's a lot of names and a lot of impactful names. I think the first thing that might jump off at you here is there's a couple of guys that I think you might say, yup, pay them right away, whatever it takes to keep them.
Agreed.
There's a couple of guys on here that you're like, probably on his last leg, probably going to retire, right? A couple of those guys. And then a couple of guys that, again, are going to, I think, outperform their value in being able to stay here, meaning that they're going to demand a larger contract than I think the Ravens are going to be able to afford.
I agree with you. So if you want to take a minute and like go through what we think, wherever we think some of these guys fall.
Absolutely.
All right. Go ahead.
So let's start with the name that obviously started this whole thing, and I think is going to be the easiest for all of us to agree, tight end Mark Andrews.
You pay the man.
You pay the man. Whatever it takes to keep him. I mean, am I wrong? Is there anybody in here that
Couch
disagrees
producer?
with that? Mark Andrews, priority number 1 out of this list?
I guess he's priority number 2, so it depends where you are with Lamar. So
No, I'm talking about this list.
I mean, Lamar's
but,
getting
but,
signed.
but that's what I'm saying. If we don't have Lamar signed yet, I might tag him and see where we are with the contract.
Right.
If we have Lamar signed, no doubt I want to extend him, but I don't know that you can extend him not knowing how that's going to affect what crazy, ridiculous numbers Lamar is going to get.
My thing with this is Mark Andrews has put up top 5 numbers since he's been in the league as a tight end. So he's going to demand top five tight end money, which is probably going to cost you in the neighborhood of probably 10 to maybe even $12 million per season.
Agreed.
That's a lot of money.
Does a guy like Mark Andrews, is he as successful in another scheme?
Yes.
Because the reason I say that is because him and Lamar have an undeniable connection. We've said that from the get-go.
Agreed.
Is he willing to risk that for the money? I don't know him well enough. I just feel like his connection is there with Lamar. I don't know
Do
that.
you know him at all?
I don't know well enough. I loved that.
Because there's when I
We
say
play
how well
poker,
enough,
but-
he's not a very open guy.
We've been in the same
You
studio
don't see
before.
you don't see a lot. You guys are assholes. You don't see a lot him posting a lot on social media a whole ton. You don't see a whole lot of
Unless it's
stories.
a thirst trap picture or something. That's all.
I don't see them overpaying.
See, I don't think they'll overpay. And if there is a team, the Jets or somebody else like that just throws money around because they got a ridiculous amount of cap space, I think that's the only way the Ravens miss out on Mark Andrews. I think the Ravens will pay Mark Andrews whatever it takes, unless, again, like you said, a team just comes
the
in.
league changing. A lot of the leagues, teams are changing to not use the tight end that much. They're using more of a blocker than a passing down tight
Right.
end.
Yeah, but
So there's
how
gonna
many
be
of those teams
limited-
are successful?
There's going to be limited teams that are going to be out there. Like New England already got theirs.
Right.
So who you want to think? Like Pittsburgh? He goes to Pittsburgh.
I don't know. There could be a number of teams. It really just depends on the cap. And again, the cap is going to grow a pretty decent amount next year, especially with fans getting back into the
Depending
stands.
on how it goes, if we're changing from defense to offense, I think maybe if the price is right, sign them. If not, you just let them go shop.
Right. Well, we'll see. I think the majority of fans, and just looking in the chat room, everybody is on board. Sign Mark Andrews. To me, off of this list, not naming Lamar, off of this list, he's priority number 1. You don't make a piss poor financial decision and overpay if somebody else is going to overpay for him,
Right.
but he is priority number 1 on my list. Let's go down to the next person. Next person on this list, cornerback Anthony Averett. Again, he's been kind of a reserve guy for us because we're just so loaded at the cornerback position. But last year, when he was asked to fill in, when we had some injuries and whatnot, played pretty well. I think he's shown growth every year that he's been here.
There's good tape on him. Here's the thing about him: if you can trade him later in this year because somebody has an injury that goes down, they're looking for a depth piece, and they're willing to come knocking. I know they're not coming knocking for a high caliber all-star player, but if they're looking for somebody they can develop and then sign to an extension, Anthony Averett might be a type of guy that somebody would come after.
I mean, the only
You're
way
not going to get a whole lot in return.
The only way that makes sense is if, 1, you don't have any injuries yourself, and 2, the rookies Wade and Stevens come in and prove that they can play at this kind of level, because they're going to need that cornerback depth. We've seen that every year. But Anthony Averett, I think, is a guy that when you talk about playing his way out of Baltimore, because of our cornerback situation, And because of how he's played, especially last year, if he continues to show that growth, he's going to earn starter money elsewhere.
Right.
And I just don't think with the Ravens having to make some other decisions and some of these other guys I think that they'll keep, I don't think Anthony Averett is one of those guys. Do you agree, Drew?
Nah, he's expendable. It's not by his play, because I think he can play well enough for this team and for this league to earn that contract you're talking about.
Right.
But you did draft two rookies this year. And like we said, maybe they could be bust, but maybe they could be real role players like he is right now. And then two, I mean, like you just said, it's just too many other variables on who's owed money and all that. I mean, I hope he earns that next contract, because that means he had a great year and it's good for us.
Exactly.
But it's there's only so many mouths to feed on the team.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, and I think somebody just said in there, good rotational corner, but you're more so looking at tree bait.
And that's only because we're spoiled, right? Because we have two of the best corners in the league. Four of the best corners, when you think about it, between Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, a healthy Jimmy Smith, and a healthy Tavon Young. Again, big question marks with health there. But when they're on the field, they're four of the best corners at what they do.
Question 2, how much does Averett play on special teams?
What's the?
I left it on the couch. These two are making fun of me.
Joe Scott loves the trades. Hey, listen, I'm not against it. Like, if you can find value, if you know at the end of the year you're not going to be bringing him back, and again, you see the development in the rookies that he does become expendable, and you can get a piece for him, sure, you entertain that trade, but you just don't see a whole lot of mid-season trades go on in the NFL like you do in Major League Baseball.
Fair enough.
I mean?
There's one guy that was on this list that kind of jumped out, and I think it's really going to depend on this year. But so far, between what we're hearing and what we heard out of his presser this past week, Bradley Bozeman is happy to be back at center and feels comfortable there.
Yeah.
If that translates, as much of a problem as we've had with center over the past few years, he's not getting like best center in the country money. It's not happening.
Well, it depends. Again, to your point, I think it really depends on how well he plays this year. He's already proven that he's an above-average guard, right? If he can come in and in year one prove that he can be a very formidable center as well, that just shows his versatility to other teams that are on the outside looking in.
Fair enough.
But for me, as if I'm the Ravens, do you really want to go through this crapshoot again and trying to find a center that can snap the fucking ball? No, I don't want that at all. If he can prove that he can snap the ball and he can be a good center and he can make all the reads and make all the calls at the line like a center is supposed to do, pay the man.
So are you willing to overpay him?
Overpay? I'm not willing to overpay anybody, but I'm willing to pay his market value.
Okay, so market value. So somebody offers him, you're willing to let him walk and
Market
say, I'm
value.
going back.
Again,
Okay.
if you get a team that's like the Jets or somebody else that wants to overpay and throw a ridiculous amount of money at him, you can't handicap your team with any bad contracts. You just can't do it, especially when you're going to have to pay Lamar $40+ million a year. That's already a bad contract because it's so much money, right?
So with Joe Flacco, we had the rotational offensive coordinator. Now we're going to have the rotational offensive line for Lamar.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Bradley Bozeman is a priority to me. He's 2 on this list.
Okay.
He's 2 under Mark Andrews. Drew, what's your take on Bradley Bozeman?
Now, unless he comes out and he's just average, to me, he's actually ahead of Andrews on that pecking
Really?
order. Because if he comes out and he's a stable center, that, like you already said, that's so much more important to me than Andrews, even though Andrews fits and it all works out. I think one way or the other, I think they're both here next year. I don't know which one signs, but one's signing and one's getting tagged. I don't think either one are going to be able to test free agency.
James, what do you got for Bozeman? Where do you think he ranks? Do you think he's important to bring back or what?
To be honest, I think he's more important than the tight end because we always find tight ends for some reason.
I understand the idea that we find tight ends, but
I'm hoping that we could change.
It's not as easy to say that we can replace that production that Mark Andrews has and that connection that he has.
I understand.
With Lamar.
Well, I'm hoping that maybe we can do a play action and have better wide receivers to throw to and open the field compared to just relying on the tight end.
Fair.
I'm all about changing it up. We've seen this for so many years with the Ravens. I think we're going in a different direction. Lamar's going to get paid. We have our running backs, that are all going to be there for the next 5 years, I think. And let's go for the offense. Let's go for the wide receivers. Let's see some action down the field.
Yeah, and Sam at Jack says O-line must be priority one.
Yes.
Garnett says Bozeman was the most pulled guard last year in the NFL. I want to see if that can translate at the center position.
Agreed.
Look, you really hope it does, but
Good point,
I
Garnett.
brought up the presser. I did want to share. Listen to how comfortable and excited he is to be back at center.
Love the transition back to center. Played, since high school, really, and I've always felt like that was my strong suit. I always felt like that was where I kind of dominate. In that tighter area. I'm a very intelligent person. I feel like, especially when it comes to football.
Not to toot my own horn or anything.
Just continue to learn the playbook, progress, learn the protections, learn all the crazy different fronts that our defense gives us, and try to block those. If you can block our defense, you can block any defense in the league. So, just excited to have that opportunity to continue to grow every single day, and just work through this mini camp, through OTAs, everything, and then when we get back in training. So.
See, his excitement is what makes me so excited about this, because I think he's going to be motivated, because I think this is what he's wanted since day one.
Smile on his face during the whole presser, by the way.
Since day one, since he was drafted, he wanted to be a center. That's where he's most comfortable, right? I mean, the Ravens just at the time didn't have the dire need that they thought, that they have now at center. So I think this is going to bode well for him. But again, a motivated Bozeman comes in and plays really well, is also going to demand more money in free agency at the end of his contract.
He's going to, and it's going to be something that, like I said, time's going to tell. I think it was Dave that says Bozeman has to prove it at first as a center. He's been a center before. He's done the filling in here, there. We need to look at the longevity and the two things. I think Dave also brought up he needs to be able to snap the ball and not have a tell. Right? As a center, if you have a tell, it's real easy for defenses to start reading you. They just look at the center for what's going on.
Right. But again, this isn't something brand new to him. He's played center before, and he's played at a very high level in college. So I think he'll be fine there. The next guy on this list is a guy that you have to weigh his value as a veteran, right? Mm-hmm. I think more so than his value and his production on the field at this point in his career. And it's Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell, he's going into, this will be his 14th year in the NFL, right? He did say, I think, in the beginning of his career, his goal was to play 15 years. So if you're going to get anything else out of Calais after this year, it's probably one more year, maybe two. And I think a lot of that's going to be dependent upon how we do. Calais Campbell is the prime example of a veteran like Ray Lewis, where if they go out and win a Super Bowl this year, he's done after this year. I don't think he's got anything left to prove in his career. But he's also that kind of same motivation that if they get close again and don't get over the hump, maybe that does, kind of fuel the fire to come back for another year, another run. But do the Ravens see paying him for another year?
If it's the way that the contract was restructured this past year, I can see it, right? It's a lower end deal. I think he's $2 or $3 million this year was the wound up being the final number, right? So if he comes back and says, "Look, give me one more year, I'll take $1.5 million."
Yeah,
I'm doing it for the veteran experience, the rotation off that line. We heard this past week out of the pressers out of John Harbaugh that Madubuike has kind of stepped up. In practices,
a lot of people have been raving about him.
They're happy about that, and there's some people on social media that feel that there's an attribution that is I can't even speak.
I'll get a dictionary.
They're attributing it to Calais being there,
right?
And we have seen pictures of them in the past, last year specifically, of Calais on the sideline with Justin.
Yeah,
that tells you something. And if he's elevated his game, then it's like it is a fine line. I would want to pay him because maybe he can help somebody else. But do I need to pay him if I have somebody that can replace him?
I think, and that's the problem right now, is right. The Ravens don't have a ton of depth on the defensive line, especially young defensive linemen. Broderick Washington, he's been out there, he's been practicing, but he's still got his hearing to go through in that whole process, so he might not be available. And how good is Broderick Washington? That still remains to be seen. Next year's draft is supposedly loaded in defensive line talent, which we didn't see the Ravens go after any defensive linemen in this year's draft. I think next year that will be an emphasis or a focus. And having a guy like a Calais Campbell, I think, is crucial to developing those younger guys to be able to get them to produce faster. So to your point, if you can get them at a vet minimum kind of a deal or a very team friendly type deal, $1 or $2 million deal, then yeah, all day long you take that. But again, if it's going to be a contract that might handicap you, an $8 or $9 million deal at this point in his career, I don't think the production and what he brings as a veteran, I guess, justify that, in my opinion. Am I wrong? What do you guys think on the couch?
You can't have another season like last season where you get hurt and you're like, you play half the season, like even if that's a good half of the season, like you can't rely on it at that age and the price tags.
Agreed. What do you think, James?
Well, what was that? I was looking on Campbell's.
Oh, and Calais Campbell. Like, what's your take on him? Do you think he's valuable enough for the Ravens to re-sign or what?
It depends on this year. If we go to the Super Bowl and we win, I think he retires. But if we don't, depending on how close he is and what kind of money he wants, maybe he wants to just go to a team and take less money and win a Super Bowl and go out. But I don't know. Right now he looks good in training camp. So if he does, then I'm all for it. So if the price is right and he wants to come back, then come back. But I feel like if we don't make it and he's thinking about retiring, then he might, go to a team that's ready to make a push, like a Kansas City Chiefs or maybe the Rams or something. Get it done. Yeah,
again, there's definitely going to be a market for Calais Campbell if he decides that he wants to come back. It's just whether that's here in Baltimore or not. I don't think the Ravens, again, they're not going to have a ton of cap space to be able to spend on a guy like Calais Campbell. But, it just depends on what happens with these guys. The next guy on the list that I want to bring up is going to be Deshaun Elliott, right? So this has been a young guy who last year in his kind of first year as a starter, like his first full healthy year as a starter, showed a good impact, right? But he's a hard-hitting, very good free safety. But I think that where he kind of lacks is he doesn't have that range, right? He doesn't have that ability to be that true center fielder. And I think that's the only thing that's really missing from this secondary is having that true center fielder. They've already got Chuck Clark under contract. So do the Ravens end up paying a second safety like a Deshaun Elliott? I don't know, because, again, if he has another good year, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be in the Deshaun Elliott sweepstakes. I know he comes with some injury history, but like we've talked about it, in my opinion, I don't think Deshaun Elliott has been injury prone. I just think Deshaun Elliott's been wrong place, wrong time, and has had some weird injuries with broken arms and things of that nature. But he's shown that he can be a very high productive player at this level. So his market's going to be there. And this might be a guy that I think some fans are going to hate to see leave. But I think because of cap situations, we might see that be the case.
Yeah, I think he like you said, he could be on his way out. I don't see them working out a long-term deal. Does he have impact? Yeah, when he's healthy and on the field. It comes down to that. And we're getting to a point that he's going to demand the money and let somebody else pay him. Let somebody else pay him. If he comes back and wreaks havoc on us, I'm okay with that. But I don't want to overpay him now.
Right. Agreed. What do you guys think? Deshaun Elliott?
It's going to be a cap casualty regardless, because he's just going to play himself out of it.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. All right, next, moving on the list, another older vet, right, that brings the whole veteran experience. He is kind of that vocal leader, especially on this defense, which we've seen a lot of our vocal leaders leave over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Terrell Suggs left a couple of years ago. We've had a couple. Mark Ingram was great when he came in. Now he's gone. We don't have a bunch of those boisterous guys. And I think the last one kind of on this list is Pernell McPhee. Pernell McPhee, I think he's one of those guys that if you can continue to get him on these one-year deal, one year, until you feel comfortable with some of the guys that you brought in this year. What happens with Jason Away? What happens with Hayes, the guy out of Notre Dame? Do they show leaps and bounds improvements in their first year and they're ready to take on more of a role? If they are, Pernell might become expendable at that point, but you can't rob this team of any more outside linebacker help at this point. So, again, if you can get him on that veteran, lower, team-friendly kind of a deal because he likes being here. He's made that.
Which the deal he's on is I believe, below what the market value was for him. He was willing. We offered, and he came back on that lower-end deal. So that's what I think it comes down to is
David, I don't think there will be a long-term deal with him at all, regardless if it's us or anybody at this point. I think the rest of his career is players going to be on these 1, maybe 2 year type deals.
Yeah. So the other guy that I wanted to kind of bring up, and I know that there were some people chiming in the chat room on this, and I really want to get everybody's take on this. Pat Ricard.
Yep.
Right. This is a guy that some people feel is expendable, other people don't. Where do you stand on Pat Ricard? How important is he to this team?
I mean, he's crucial, right? There's only so many teams in the NFL that even use a fullback anymore, right? There's only a few. But what this team does in the run game and having a player do it at the level that he does is crucial to this offense. Now, with that said, over the last, decade or so, or even more, the Ravens have been able to find fullback help, either through the draft, through free agency, right? And is Pat Ricard going to be another Kyle Juszczyk where
I'm glad you said it.
Where he's going to end up getting a bigger contract somewhere else that the Ravens can't afford? That's a really, really strong possibility. I know Ryan's going to hate that because it's one of his favorite players. It's one of my favorite players. If I had it my way, I'd keep all these guys, right? But you got to be realistic, and there are some guys on this, to me, that take a little bit more priority over Pat Ricard, but he is definitely a player that I'd love to see back in the fold. What about you, Ryan? Where's your stance on Pat Ricard?
I think you're right. I'm going to hate it, but I just don't think that you're going to be able to afford something like that. We saw how good that Kyle Juszczyk was once he got out of here. Obviously, he's playing up to that huge contract that they gave him, so it wouldn't have been detrimental for us to pay a man with that since he's performing to the level of that contract. But we obviously replace it at a much lower level. We've done so before, even with just some of our bigger running backs, not necessarily fullbacks that we've had.
Right.
We've always had that bruiser running back be able to pull it off, kind of like James said, where you go from Todd Heap, what will we ever do? Well, we find the next great tight end and the next great tight end.
That's true.
So I just think that, play my luck. The Ravens actually know how to do that one, and we'll get the next guy.
I'm proud of you, Ryan. That was a very unselfish take, and I liked it.
Of you.
I liked it. What about you guys? Casting couch. What do you think?
Definitely Kyle Juszczyk route. I think that's coming.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but then again,
And good for him. He needs to get paid by somebody.
they foresaw it with Mason.
Exactly.
Mason.
Thank you. That's
They
right where I was
foresaw.
going.
I mean, he might hate him because he's from Michigan and all that, but
He sucks. It won't be him that replaces him.
I guarantee it will be. It will be
Rex Steiner's going to come out all roided up.
Is he coming back?
But that's one of those. It is what it is. He's such a niche player that, if someone ends up making it a dollar amount that just doesn't make sense for you to match, you can't match it anyway. So it happens.
He's a perennial Pro Bowler at this point.
Yeah.
He's an all-pro. This is one of the best at that position. But again, the demand's not as strong because there's not as many teams that utilize the fullback position like the Ravens.
Well, not only that, but let's look at the fact of how versatile he is for us, right? He's been able to play defense. He's been able to be out there on special teams.
Yeah.
This is a guy. Look, I get what you guys are saying. I might go. It's not like he's asking, or his asking price is going to be $7, $8, $9, $10 million a year.
Right.
It's probably going to be in the realm of $4 million. Right. If I'm looking at, I'm willing to pay for what he brings to this team.
Right.
Right. The joke was, it's Project Pat. It's Pat at this point. It ain't Project Pat. It's Pat at this point because Pat will do whatever the hell you need him to do, and he does it well.
Man of many hats.
Exactly.
That's
and
very true.
it is utility in any sport is hard to find.
Yeah.
But a guy that can play on both sides of the ball well and get out there in special teams. That's a rare guy that can get out there for all those snaps and not have any injuries.
Yeah, I shouldn't pigeonhole him to just being a fullback. It's what he's very good at, but yes, he can do multiple things.
I got an idea. That guy behind you, that big ass bro, the Ben Powers guy,
Ben Cleveland.
I'm sorry, Ben Cleveland. He can fucking do all that stuff too. I bet you.
The mountain.
Just think about that V that Scott described for us. He can get out there and run. He can run with the V.
You can see the V in the picture, all right?
Yeah. Oh shit.
Next guy on this list is a guy that I think a lot of Ravens fans are big fans of. He's been around his entire career. He's been a Raven for a very long time. Cornerback Jimmy Smith, right? I think Jimmy, at this point in his career, needs to decide on what he wants to do moving forward. I think he's kind of coming to the end of his career. He might have another year or two left in him after this year if he decides that he wants to, because I think there will be a market for Jimmy Smith because he's still a very good corner, and I haven't seen a lot of decline. The thing with him is there's been some injury history, especially lately. But listen, it's Jimmy Smith's tenure with the Ravens. He's another one that's a Raven for life, right? He's taken less money to stay here already. He could very easily do that again next year. I think what's going to decide Jimmy Smith's future is going to be a couple of things. Does Tavon Young stay healthy this year? And if he doesn't, and the Ravens decide to part ways with him and cut him next year and save the salary cap because he just can't stay on the field, there's one vacancy. If Anthony Averett does get a contract elsewhere, right, and he gets a bigger starter contract and he goes somewhere else, there's 2 potential losses. Can you afford to lose 3 in Jimmy Smith, especially if maybe you don't see the kind of production out of the rookies that you drafted this year in Wade and Stevens that you had hoped for?
So the thing that I look at with this is to pay him a little bit. I'm not paying him what he's making this year. It's a decline unless he goes off this year.
He took less money this year.
I'll pay him probably just below that. I'm probably not going to pay him exactly why. But the reason I'm willing to pay him is the video I saw this past week. Did you see the video with him and Marlon?
Yeah.
Him and Marlon on the field.
Coaching each other up.
Exactly. Marlon's like, what do I need to do? You could see
this is
Marlon
$100 million corner, one of the top 3 corners in the league, still taking advice and taking pointers and learning from each other, man. That's when you know how good of a corner that you are. When you have that drive, you're already a top 3 corner in the league, talking about Marlon Humphrey, and you're still wanting to get better. That's the best of the best. That's the elite of the elite.
And if I remember correctly, there was some talk of like Marcus Peters when he came over, him talking with Jimmy, picking Jimmy's brain about this defense because Jimmy's been in it for so long.
Marcus Peters is a student of the game,
right? But he
might come off as a little brash and he's a shit talker and whatnot, but he has got a high football IQ.
But that's my point. Is the value? You know, we keep talking about it, and it feels like on defense we have more of these guys on defense than we do offense. But there's these guys that step in and he goes. Jimmy retires the Raven, goes up on the ring, yeah. But he's one of those guys that he takes in that next level because he can help coach those guys, right? He can help. You already have 2 of the best DBs, top 10 DBs, no doubt, arguably 2 of the top 5 DBs in the league playing on this team right now. I said arguably. I didn't say it was guaranteed.
I would say 2 of the top 10, but yeah.
2 of the top 10, right?
Yeah.
There's people that would still put Marcus Peters over Marlon Humphrey, so that's why I say 2 of the top 5.
Yeah.
But anyway, with that being said, to come in and pay this guy to help you with that next wave, because Marcus Peters is gone after the following year.
Right.
You need to start having somebody waiting in the wings that's studying under him. Why not have Jimmy sitting on the bench with this guy going, see what Marcus did there?
Yeah.
See what Marlon did there?
Garnett brings up a good point. If it wasn't for Jimmy, we wouldn't have a ring. That's right. He's the one that made that big stop in the end zone. Was it Crabtree?
Crabtree.
Yeah.
Yep.
And look, you can't look at it from that perspective and say we're going to pay him because of that. And I don't think that's
no.
Where you're
He's
going,
just
Garnett,
making a point. He's just making a point.
But it's the knowledge base of Jimmy and his. He is a student of the game as well, right? His game has evolved since he was a rookie. It's just if it wasn't for his health, he would be the top corner in the league. Period.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to see. The last 2 guys I want to hit on real quick. One is a guy that we just got this year. He came in on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Sammy Watkins. What do you think? I mean, there's a few things that are big question marks here. What are you looking at with Sammy?
So it's going to depend on what his fit is in this system so far. I mean, right now what we're hearing out of camp and the little bit of video that we have seen or the stories that are being painted by these media personalities is that him and Lamar are starting off very well, very hot. Each practice they've gotten better, and their chemistry is good, especially on the deep ball, which has been an issue with Lamar in the past, right? So it depends on his impact in this offense. He's already worked with Greg Roman in the past, right? So they've already got, those 2 already have the work history together. If he can come in and prove that he can, do things and be effective in this offense, the Ravens are going to have to consider it. But Sammy Watkins still young. He's got a lot, like I said, he's still got a lot to prove. He's only 27 years old, but can he stay healthy, right? If he proves that he can stay healthy at 27 years old with the kind of speed and the kind of production that he can put up, maybe another team is going to overpay for that kind of production.
That's exactly where I'm thinking it's going to be. He's going to go where the money's at, unless he truly loves the environment and he's getting the touches that he wants.
He's saying all the right things so far.
Right.
He's talking about what the facilities look like and just being there, the environment, the team chemistry. Like, he's bought into this program. And this is a guy coming from a Super Bowl winning franchise out there in Kansas City, and he's still speaking very glowingly of the Ravens.
Yeah, and Craig Zero, I'm going to answer your question real quick. You can stay tuned for the after hours to talk about more. He said, Scott, who would you prefer, Humphrey or Peters? Humphrey all day because Peters can't tackle. Simple as that. That's my answer.
Humphrey is the more all-around player. Peters' boom or bust impact is great. He'll make the bigger plays.
Is more consistent, but still has the impact.
Humphrey did say in an interview this week that he's putting more of an emphasis and he's going to focus more on the turnover side, not from a stripping standpoint, but from an actual interception standpoint.
I guess some things I'm trying to focus on this year going into this season is really just trying to get the ball more as far as, interceptions, and mainly clean up, different things with, knowing where my help is. I'm using that more to where I can be, a little more aggressive here, a little less aggressive here, depending on different things. And just I've been talking with my DB coach, Chris, and just trying to figure out, what you're going to take into the season to have a couple consistent things that you do, and to where it's book work, to where you're doing it every time. This is what it is, and it's not. You have those flashes of bad things. You're like, yo, what technique was that? And you're just all over the place. So I'm kind of just trying to tighten up some things technique wise, to where it's what Coach Chris keeps telling me is have a game plan when you get to the line. And that's something that I think I'm going to take into the season. I think that's the quote that I'm going to use.
So for me, what I take away from this is that, again, this is where the very, very good players become elite, right? This is, again, even many players of his caliber have come into this league, been that good, and just settled with being that good, right?
My game is good enough.
Marlon has never been that kind of player. He's always strived to be better. He just signed a contract that's going to take care of him and his family for generations, right?
And he's living in a camper, by the way.
He is living in a camper. Now, granted, I think he said he bought a jet and he's flying around and he's spending money here and there, whatever.
Yeah.
Either way, do you? But at the end of the day, like, this is a guy that just signed a big contract. He's one of the elite cornerbacks in the league and still looking for ways to get better. This is why I take Humphrey over Peters.
Agreed. Last one that we were talking about with the free agency, really quickly. I think I know the answer on this one. Brandon Williams. Team-friendly deal. Is this going to turn into another Nada?
This is Nada 2.0.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that he's on the level of Nada as far as, like, what their contributions have been over the years, but he's another guy that I think is expendable, that somebody else is going to spend money on. I get it that we don't have a ton of help on the defensive line right now, and he's crucial to what this run defense is, right? When he's out on the field, it's impactful as far as the run defense
We know
goes.
what happens when he's not there.
When he's not there, right. Teams typically run, especially right through the middle against us. But with the development of Madubuike and, with Broderick Washington, if he does, avoid all this stuff and make the leap, I think Brandon Williams becomes expendable.
Okay. That's what it comes down to me. There's a few other chips that have to fall for me to say he's expendable. I think that he is an impact player, and you can't ignore that.
Yeah.
Regardless of what else is going on, the guy makes an impact. When he's not on the field, we feel it. And in the situations of Derrick Henry, what are the teams that beat us? Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Right? The Chiefs, Chubb for the Browns.
Yeah.
When he's not there, we feel it. You have to be able to fill that hole, and it has to be a guaranteed fill. You got to see it this year.
Yeah.
If you don't see it this year, I don't care what's in the draft. If you don't see it this year out of somebody on this roster, you got to at least offer him a contract for another year.
So you just triggered something for me, because I was thinking about this the other day, and you mentioned the Chiefs, right? Lamar has publicly said the Chiefs are kind of our kryptonite or whatever, right? We got the Chiefs week 2. And I keep thinking about how big this matchup for the Chiefs is. It's another matchup at the bank. The fans are going to be in the stands. It's Sunday Night Football, coming off of the opening week Monday Night Football game against the Raiders in Vegas, right? I want to ask you guys, and I want to get your opinion. And Drew, I want to get your opinion on this too. So stay seated for me, friend, before you go pee.
You're a dick. You are such a dick.
How long can you hold it?
We didn't make these things mobile. So
my question about the Chiefs is, and I'll let you answer first because you got to go to the bathroom.
cool. Behind the curtain.
In your opinion, do the Ravens need the win in week 2 over the Chiefs to get over that mental hump of beating the Chiefs? Like, for instance, if Mahomes right now is 3-0 against Lamar and the Ravens, right? First matchup was an overtime win in Kansas City. Second, I think they handed us a pretty bad loss. It wasn't terrible, but last year they embarrassed us.
Yeah, last year was the embarrassing one. The other two were close games,
If they lose again, week 2, do you think they can overcome that and beat them in the playoffs?
It's funny. Every now and then you get these. There's two teams that are like the upper echelon of their conference.
Yeah.
And the one team can't get past the other team. And I'm not saying it's apples and oranges at this point, but the Colts and Peyton Manning could not get past Brady for it seemed like the longest time. Like the first 4 or 5 matchups, it was like for some reason they were always close, but the Patriots always came out on top. So I almost kind of feel like that's the same thing. It's kind of twofold with it being a week 2 matchup.
All right.
It doesn't hurt to lose it in theory, but at the same time, you do go back to the fact that if you lost this one, then you're feeling like, oh God, are they ever going to beat this team?
Right.
Is it always going to be like, yeah, you're their doormat forever?
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about it too. Week 2, right? It's no loss in week 2 is going to settle your season, right? I mean, there's still plenty of time to recover. Now we've got an extra game, right? But Ryan, what's your take on it? Do you think they need to beat the Chiefs, regardless of week 2, right? If this game was week 8, week 9, it's the Chiefs. You're 0-3 against them since Mahomes has taken over, right? This is the team that you're going to have to get through to get to that Super Bowl that you want to go. Do you think that this is crucial?
Before you ask Ryan, I got one more question for Drew.
You guys, that's the 8:30 potty break. He had the 7:30. And then the Terps segment's coming up in about 45 minutes, so we know he's peeing again. All right, but back to the question at hand. Yes, you 100% need to beat the Chiefs because it's not just Lamar. If it was one person that was seeing ghosts, it is what it is. But I watched that game last year, and Andrews looked like he was seeing ghosts.
Preach.
Hollywood looked like he was seeing ghosts.
Preach.
They all, Kansas City is living rent-free in their head. And the only way you kick them out, the only way that you remove that renter is by winning. That's the only way you're going to be able to do this.
And you got, Marlon in that game. There was one that he got turned around on. I think Jimmy Smith got turned around on another one. You got some of these guys that really want this back. You got some of these edge guys, Calais, Campbell, Matt Judon last year. They want these things back. They want to seal this up as a team. They want to get this monkey off their back. And what better way to do it than get it out of the way the first portion of the year, right? So I get what you guys are saying. We can afford the loss early in the season, but what type of mentality does that start to set if you can't get over the hump? Week 2, you can't even get over the hump. They've got the least time to prepare against you, which it's playing. This plays into our advantage. There's not 6, 7, 8 weeks of tape for them to look at against the Ravens, especially if we're going to scheme differently. This is the time you can't give Andy Reid tape. You give Andy Reid tape, Andy Reid will do Andy Reid things.
Look, I think Nick and Garnett both made good points here. Nick, you covered it, so now I can't see.
Well, here, Garnett's saying first. The coaches were out-coached the max is what he's saying, and that's never not going to be true. Andy Reid's one of the best coaches of all time, so you have to outplay them. You're not going to out-coach them. You got to run your squad.
I 100% agree with that. And then I think Nick's point was that this is going to be a good litmus test for where we are as a team. I know it's still early in the season, right? But this matchup has been circled since the day it was announced, right? The Ravens want to get the revenge. You don't think Lamar's motivated to want to beat the Chiefs? Like I said, if he's gone public and announced that they are our kryptonite, this bothers him.
And they're winning this game.
The Ravens?
Yeah.
Hand down. If James said it, you might go put your money down on it.
A very James-like thing right here. David Mister says, I'm calling a tie for Kansas City. Didn't James do that shit last year?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
They're winning this game. Number one, they played pretty well at the beginning of the season compared to other teams getting ready to go. But also, they're not going to have Chuck Clark.
Right.
I mean,
Frank Clark.
Frank Clark.
Frank Clark.
That's
And they
TBD,
lost.
but yeah.
And they lost.
He got the Uzi.
I think somebody chimed in there and said Frank Uzi Clark.
And then they lost their best guard. Didn't he tear his ACL in minicamp or something?
I don't know. They got Orlando Brown.
They got a tackle.
They got
a good left tackle.
But the thing that we're talking about too is exactly what I was just talking about with Andy Reid. The more you give Andy Reid tape, the better he can make his whatever team he's got. Think about what happened last year. Look at how Kansas City started the season last year.
Right.
Kansas City had some struggles. They started getting tape and they started being able to game plan better against teams because teams in the early stages were able to better game plan against them because they didn't change what they were doing.
Right.
They didn't change what was working for them.
Yeah.
So they made minor adjustments. But you give Andy Reid tape, Andy Reid can do a lot. You got to hit them while they're weak, and they're weakest at the beginning of the season when they don't have tape on you.
All right, Ryan, it's time for a social media shout out. Who's been in the chat room? Any good comments?
All right, we got pretty hot and heavy. Craig Zero with the first comment today. Love that first comments became a thing. It was just
That's awesome.
It was an
now.
offhand comment I
gonna
made
have
for
to
the
come
hell
up
of
with
it,
something.
and it's really seemed to motivate some people. I love it. Steph Summers came in close second, and gentlemanly Buffalo Chuck always waits till after his wife makes a comment. I've never seen him first, but he was
Husband
third.
of the year.
So anyway, Steven Severs
You guys
comes
give
in.
me shit.
Steven Severs asked about our gas can.
Is it the real Steven
we'll,
Severs or the fake Steven
We'll
Severs?
have the gas, real Steven Severs.
Real
We'll have the
Steven
gas
Severs.
can
Yeah,
on
let's go to
camera here shortly. But then David Missler also was in the chat, sharing Sherry's out there.
Hey, Sherry.
Sharing Sherry says, "Woo! Episode 200 next week.
That's
Congrats,
right.
guys.
One episode away.
We're going to the gas can cam over here.
There you go.
There's our gas can.
damn it.
As our
I blocked
K cam.
James again.
Wait. What does that K mean, Ryan?
I think it means
No.
nobody's
What's-
offended.
What's that one mean?
What does that one mean?
That's a strikeout.
And what's Drew,
not
spin it
looking.
around?
I'm afraid
And-
to fuck things up.
And that's a strikeout looking.
Hey!
I learned that this week.
Not offensive.
I don't like baseball. Stephanie Hemling, Kamal Porter. Kamal Porter says, "Let's see Scott's thirst trap posts," as we were talking about.
No,
Andrew.
let's not do that.
And,
Sorry, Kamal.
no. Drew might have put him on blast and told him his thirst trap posts are all from the little deck. So, Dominic Henson, Nick Short, Samuel L. Jackson, Jacob Paul out there asking, "Will you guys?"
Jake Paul?
Jacob Paul.
We wish.
Jacob Paul.
We've had him in the chat ever since his big fight. Will you guys be going to training camp? We'll definitely be going to one of the training camps, especially Fred. We'll put that date out when we have it, see
sure.
if anybody can join.
I'll shake hands, kiss babies with a mask on or something.
Whatever you need. Then I got Adit Mahmoud, and here's his comment. He says, "Could Lamar sign a percentage deal? For example, his yearly cap hit is 15 to 20% of the salary cap. Lamar gets his money, and the Ravens significantly hurting their future cap space. He could, but we need to really get on reality check here. Lamar represents himself." Not because he likes that, it's because he wants to make more money.
Yeah.
Lamar doesn't want us selling shirts because he wants to make more money. So Lamar is not leaving any money on the table here, guys. We just have to realize we're going to have to work around
quarterback
that.
is anymore.
We're going to have to work around that.
Interestingly enough, though, the one thing that was interesting in his comments this past week when he had his presser was that he said when he was asked about the contract extension and everybody's hearing that they're getting closer, it could be expected soon, and he said, look, do I want a contract? Yes. But to me, my legacy is more important than this contract.
Oh, shit.
He's saying
I don't
the
know.
right things.
Listen, his first statement, not first statement,
They're
one
gonna
of
get a
his
Super Bowl
first
out of
statement,
me.
he's gonna get that was his first statement.
Yeah.
They're gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Then he had an interview with Ray Lewis in training camp prior to training camp, and he said, "I want to be the Brady of Baltimore." Right? Now, listen, you can talk a good game and you can say all those things because it's the right thing to say it. I get that. But there's something about Lamar that I
It's
believe
a
that.
pattern and a passion.
Yeah.
Nah, he can always sell cars.
Harbs has said multiple times that Lamar wants to be here and we want Lamar here. It's just a matter of when this contract gets done, not if.
Yeah.
So I think the deal will be done, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the only other guy I had was Mr. Chandler. So that's the end of our list there, unless I missed
All
somebody.
right. Appreciate everybody tuning in as always. All right, Scott, it's time for some bros, bows, and O's. And is there anything good to talk about right now?
There's some okay stuff to
All
talk
right.
about. Some
What are we
decent
talking?
stuff. So as of today, they're 23-49. This is before tonight's game. In the AL East, they are 19 and a half games back. We're pretty much out of it.
That's good,
It's
right?
Not even.
No. That's one of those stats that's not good, right?
Sure, if we
The
win
higher
19
number
more
is not
games,
good.
Ryan, then we're good. That's
That's
what it
more
means.
the golf stat. The lower that number is, the better.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I guess you could be ahead of the
No.
last in the AL by 3 games now. That was 2 games as of last week, and we are second worst in baseball. Arizona is only worse than us by 2 games,
Yep.
21-53. Last week it was
that
by
speaks
1 game.
volumes of how bad Arizona is.
Yeah. Well,
That tells you.
they fired half their coaching staff.
Yeah.
So I mean,
But it's
what do you
real
expect?
pretty out there, so that works.
It is pretty.
it
out
is nice
there.
in Phoenix.
It's a dry heat.
There's not. You don't have to throw the cornstarch on the balls as much.
113 degrees, and I felt fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't
right.
need a towel at the pool. You just stand outside for 8 seconds.
But so at the major league level, look, the bats, as we said in the intro, our bats are major league ready for the most part.
Yeah.
We've got so many guys hitting so well. I mean, you got Mullins with the big game. T-shirt night.
Yeah.
T-shirt night.
I should have been there.
Don't get me started on that.
Nah, yeah. My son had a very good game on T-shirt night. He hit
Cedric Donahue.
he hit 2 home runs. He hit back-to-back nights with 2 home
yeah,
runs.
it's actually the 3rd time this year he's done that.
And no wins to show for it.
Yeah.
yeah. Way to be a Debbie Downer, Ryan. Jesus
My
Christ.
stepson, which if you looked at him, you would understand. My stepson, Ryan Mountcastle, he hit 3 home runs the other night. I was looking for his 4th, and he put everything behind it, just didn't get under it.
It was
Just
a nice
enough.
single, though.
Yeah, it was a nice
Four
single.
for 4 in that game. Yeah,
Yeah.
he went really well, and that was a great game on Saturday.
Define great.
Until it got to the pitching.
I mean,
game.
offensively,
Just
it was
saying.
We're
fucking
gonna get to
great.
that in a
You
minute.
hit 6 home runs, and you don't win a game. That tells you everything that you need to know what's wrong with this team.
Yeah, and you were leading by 4 runs.
It was an awful night.
It was horrible.
God, it was terrible to watch.
Sunday, we're talking about positive things. Okay, Sunday, Trey Mancini, number 99 and number 100 in his career. So many guys hitting.
The one
Nick,
positive.
What are we bringing?
I can't read
Little
that.
people? You meant little people?
I can't read that,
Oh,
Nick.
But no, Trey Mancini. So 14
that's
homers
funny.
in 69 games in his first season back after beating stage 3 colon cancer. All-star. All-star, right? Team's fastest player to 100 career home runs, 531 games.
I was
since
surprised
we moved
by
to
that
Baltimore.
stat, to be honest with you. I would have thought that was like an Adam Jones thing or a Nick Markakis thing or a Cal Ripken thing. Like, I would have never thought that would have been
Well, what does James think about that?
Trey Mancini. Cal Ripken.
Cal Ripken.
I only
He's
want,
blocked by the gas can, so it doesn't matter.
I only want to talk about Cal.
Didn't Brady Anderson hit like 100 home runs in one season? Oh, wait a minute. That was like 1 year, and it was in the middle of his career.
Yeah. But so we talked about that, but the pitching on the other hand, as we said, is just a struggle. Matt Harvey, right? So I saw an interesting piece on this week, right? He has continued. He started off decent.
Dark Knight needs to go back to Gotham.
I think he needs to get the fuck out of here.
You don't
I
need to
care
go
where
to
he
Gotham.
goes.
He just needs to go to that bat cave and stay there.
Yes.
So
Go to your cave.
So maybe this is what you're referencing, but there was somebody this week that was saying, look, maybe they need to change his role because you want to get you've got him on a major league contract. They dropped his minor league to sign him to the major league contract before the season started. He's on a major league contract. Does it make sense to put him in the bullpen and see if he doesn't, if it a different role changes him, he looks better and starts to become something that you can use as bait? Because right now he's useless. You can't even trade him for a bag of balls.
I'd be open to that 100% because if you watch Matt Harvey pitch, it's not a stuff thing. Like, he's still throwing 95, 96 pretty consistently, and he's able to locate okay. The problem is when he gets through the order on the third
time around.
they're batting damn near 500 against this guy the third time around the order.
Yeah.
Something to your point, if you get him in that like middle relief role or you get him even in that like setup role, which he might pitch like once a month in a setup role. But if you get him to that role, I think his career might extend a little bit. I think he needs to put his starter days behind him.
2 or 3 innings is
Yeah.
kind of what I'm saying. He comes in the 5th, 6th, and carrying it to the
I
8th.
think this is what he needs to do for the rest of his career, regardless if he's here
Yeah.
in Baltimore. I think if he wants to play at the major league level and extend his career for another 3 to 4 years, he needs to do it in the
It's now
bullpen.
3 straight years of this with him, right? That he's getting hit. He starts off well, and then he's getting hit once guys get tape on
The
him.
one thing I'll say about Mount Harvey that I respect is that he owns it. Like, he'll tell you when he sucks. And I like that about him. Like, he owns the fact that he's terrible. So, kudos
it's
to you.
not like I just didn't have it today. I'm struggling.
Yeah,
That's what you're hearing out of him.
He basically, in an interview, said, I fucking suck.
You know who
without the F
You know
word.
who really struggled on Saturday coming in a relief pitching setting? It was Tyler Wells.
I think it was more Paul Fry than Tyler Wells.
Yeah, it was Paul Fry. Paul Fry was the one that got the guys on base, and then Tyler Wells.
Because I've been thinking about that. Because Tyler Wells didn't have an ecstatic ninth inning coming in for Paul Fry. He shouldn't have to fucking come in for Paul Fry. Paul Fry couldn't stop walking guys. Then the go ahead runs. Tyler Wells gets a pop out, and I'm sorry if there's a healthy Santander or a healthy player in right field, then I think that's a catch. I think Santander still, that ankle's still fucked, and to me, like his ankle allowed him to not get there for that catch.
Yeah.
So I think I'm not saying Tyler Wells doesn't deserve a little bit of shit, but I think Paul Fry deserves way more shit for that inning than Tyler Wells.
Yeah, I agree. Tyler Wells really hadn't had a ton of time, in my opinion, to really kind of like work through the kinks or anything. So I'm not ready to rush judgment on Tyler Wells. Can he pitch better? 100%. He can pitch better, but so could anybody on this roster right now, other than John Means, which he can't stay on the field now with his injury and everything. So there's really nobody from a pitching standpoint that has blown me away, starting or relieving.
No. I mean, it hasn't been, and that's the thing that really sucks is the one guy that was your bright spot even started to have some struggles, but then we learn why he's having some struggles, and that's John Means.
Yeah.
Right back on June 5th, John Means goes down in the first inning. MRI feels a shoulder strain, but no major structural damage. He began throwing, the good sign. He began throwing this past week in Sarasota at the complex. It's the first return for the shoulder strain. Again, he was shut down previously for the same issue.
Yeah. This is like the third time I think he's had this.
I was going to say, is this a concern for you?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's they haven't been able to, like you said, they haven't been able to find anything structurally, so I guess that's good, but for this to now flare up for a third time, there's something more to it.
Yeah.
And I hope.
Nick, no, we're not missing Chris Davis.
No, not at all. I hope for the best for John Means. I mean, he's been great for this team. I am interested and intrigued to see how he ends up pitching now that they're removing the sticky, tacky shit, because we all saw the videos that were going around of him using the sticky stuff, and he's been a good pitcher. Hold on, he's been a good pitcher since day one, since he's come up to this major league club. But this year was an anomaly. Like, he was literally on a Cy Young pace, and we had never seen anything prior of him using any kind of substance. So if the substance that he is using or was using is now eliminated, I wonder how that affects his game.
It's all, first of all, it's all foreign substances, and I'm not comparing John Means to Jacob deGrom by any means, because they're on two different levels.
Don't ever do that.
But Jacob deGrom got checked for the same thing. Jacob deGrom was pointed out as he always goes to his hat, and he always goes to his belt, and behind his belt into his pants. They actually made him rotate his pants out to make sure that the umpire touched the inside of the crotch of his pants.
Johnson?
He might have touched the
Players
Johnson.
are hiding it anywhere they can now.
That's what I'm saying, man. All they're doing is checking your hat, gloves. Like, just put it on your nuts, bro. Just dig it. I got an itch. Get out of here. We're gonna win this game.
Oh man!
Scratch your ass. Leave us.
I think your head athletic trainer might come out and be like, "Look, buddy, you got something going on in them pants. We need to get that straight now."
Talk about dressing left.
Right. But no, the videos that we saw of John Means.
Oh, touching the glove and putting the pressure.
Being an Orioles fan, not being an Orioles fan, take that out of it for a second. If you just watch the video, it was clear that he was using something very tacky.
His fingers whipped back to the
He
glove.
wasn't using a sunscreen or some kind of
tar.
or it was a tack.
That
Whether it
body
was that
has-
spider tack, I don't know, but
there's-
it was
and
super tacky.
Everybody has that dark glove.
Yeah.
I guarantee you have a lot. There's a lot of pitchers that are out there
They should
doing
all
that,
have
right?
white
And
gloves.
that's where I think it's. And this could go down a rabbit hole. I don't want us to go down it, but it could really open up a can of worms depending on what happens with this. If you start seeing more players get hit, that type of stuff, there's a lot of things that could happen. But you have to look at it and say, these guys do this for a reason because they can feel control.
Drew, what's your take on the whole situation?
When did this become a problem? Because I put it this way.
Talking about what? The tacky using
because
this substance?
Me, why does baseball have to keep putting shit in the forefront? They're the ones that keep bringing up something. It seems like maybe people started thinking this was going to be like a steroid issue like it was back in the day with steroids, and they want that black eye. So they need to keep making changes at mid-thing.
They're trying to
personally,
get away from the ball.
But why do you need to bring it out into the forefront? Let's just say, hey, look. You're talking. There's a memo to all teams. You have to stop doing this. But you go public with it, and now you can make jokes about it, and then you can go and have these umpires goddamn to grope a guy's balls to check to see if he's got substance on.
Because if they don't go public with it, the players are going to go public with it, because the players are the ones that are contractually going to be impacted by it. Meaning that, like, if they're not able to get the same spin rate, they're not able to get the same break on their balls, they're not able to get the same swings and misses, their ERA goes up, which means their value goes down, which means their contracts aren't as big. So the players, if MLB just said, here's a silent memo, we're just going to remove this, it's going to become public knowledge at some point. So the MLB went forward with it like, hey, look at us, we're trying to, better the game. I really think part of why they did this is because what's going to excite Ryan most about baseball.
But they keep fucking with the baseball too, though.
I agree, but I think...
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I think what's going to excite more fans and bring more fans back is offense, right? And we can't just say, yep, steroids are legal, because what have we done? We've done everything that we can to remove steroids from the game. But if we remove this stickiness from it, pitchers aren't able to do quite as much with the ball. Now, granted, this does cause risk issues with injuries and stuff like that, but I don't think they're even thinking that. I really think that they're thinking, okay, well, this is going to make pitchers not have as much command, which is going to leave more balls over the plate, which is going to allow for more offense.
Or does it also, to that point, we've already seen how many guys on a regular basis are we seeing get hit from guys?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's going to create health issues.
But if you're going to start doing stuff like that, right? Why did MLB finally say, okay, yeah, we are okay with pine tar. You just can't have it above this point on the bat.
I agree with that. That's a valid point. Like, why is it okay to have stickiness on the bat but not on a ball?
Right, exactly. It was because you can't have it on this point, this portion up, and that's it. If you're doing it, I don't care what you do. Just make it all across the board. Allow for something. There needs to be something.
I know how to fix it.
Well, they tried that. They did that with a rosin bag.
I know how to fix
That's the consistent. Yes, trust me. I used to pitch too. Not only was I a catcher, I was a pitcher.
Here we go. And how many times did you go to the rosin bag?
Pretty often.
Because it was there.
Because I'm a heavy sweater. I sweat a lot.
He needed a break. He was winded.
That too.
I personally think they should just go with a college ball. It has a higher seam on it. The pitchers get a better grip on it. You're not worrying about the tar. And it's a big difference. I don't know if you ever felt or hold college ball. It's like it has a good grip on it compared to MLB ball where it's like just lace. I mean the stitching just laying on there barely.
Well, you know what's interesting?
I don't know if he was using spider tack. Like I said, you could tell in the videos he was using something very tacky, but I don't know if it was
Garrett Cole definitely was.
Garrett Cole.
His velocity. I mean, like his movement on the ball has decreased since they've been saying they're going to check.
So you had this issue way back when, right? And what do? They went into the Delmarva mud, right? And now guys are saying the Delmarva mud's not enough. Why doesn't MLB look at this and say, well, we did it before, we put something on a ball. Let's look, is there something that we could rub the balls up with it to give it more grip? The other thing is, I'll have to show you guys after the show. Wyatt got a ball this weekend. Joel Polanco, bullpen catcher, recognized catcher. I had to catch him glove.
Wait, you brought a catcher's mitt to the game?
Hey,
every time.
Where
you want to know why?
Because he knows catcher.
I think that's weird.
A glove. Hold on.
Okay,
if I'm trying to get a ball for my son, it's the old Rawlings orange rim.
But catcher's mitt.
Okay,
it's a catcher's mitt.
It draws attention. It's got an orange.
border. It's all black with an orange border around it, so it catches people's attention.
Scott, you got that in the bullpen. What's bigger, the bullpen or your deck?
It's close. It's close.
Definitely the bullpen.
Anyway. But no, so he got the ball. I'll have to show you guys this ball. I actually went up and got one that he got 2 years ago when Anthony Santander threw him a ball. You can see, they said they raised the stitches. The stitches are not raised. The stitches are lower and tighter wound than the ball from 2 years ago. So to say that the stitches are raised is complete BS. You can physically feel the difference in your hand when you're holding the ball. I don't know how you didn't. Oh, that's right. You threw your ball back. But
that's what catchers do. They throw it back to the pitcher. They throw it back to the pitcher.
Yeah, and Nick says Nick is apparently asking Adit.
Yeah,
I guess Adit was talking about spin rate. No,
Yeah,
and
Nick,
the spin
calm
rate is
down.
the same.
Adit's bringing some knowledge. I can't fact check that knowledge, but I appreciate it.
So he's talking about spin rate, and the spin rate's basically the same between 2019 and now. But my whole point is that MLB is going about this all the wrong way,
Like they always
and
do.
you really got to hope it. And getting back to John Means, I knew we were going down that rabbit hole. Getting back to John Means, he's expected to be back around the All-Star break is what Hyde is projecting. So exciting to see. Speaking of All-Star, there's one. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, that's where I was going with the next comment was we've been talking about for weeks, right? We got to hang our hat on something with this team. We got to be able to get excited and be able to go to the ballpark and find something to look forward to. And the couple of things have been the bright stars on this team. The Cedric Mullins of the world, the Ryan Mountcastles of the world, the Trey Mancinis of the world, right? Those are the three things that you know that you can go to the ballpark and look forward to right now. One guy that I thought was going to be an integral piece to this team this year and a potential trade piece, but has been nowhere near what I thought he would be, Anthony Santander. What is going on?
And Drew brought this up earlier, and Joe Trezza from MLB.com kind of wrote an article, really interesting article. If you guys didn't get the chance to read it, go check it out. It's breaking down what's going on with him. He's in a serious slump, guys. He went in the J series. He was 1 for 11 over that 3-game series. He is now 5 for 40 with 14 walks. I like that part of this. He had, 14 Ks, 1 walk. So I flipped that. 14 Ks, 1 walk.
So
I don't like the 14 Ks.
So
I don't like the 14 Ks. That's over his last 11 games.
Yeah, it's rough.
That is really rough.
This is a guy who was on pace to hit like 30 home runs last year if the season would have gone through. He's been, he's a Rule 5 draft guy. Since he's gotten here, he's gotten better and better and better every year. But this year has been a huge step back.
And the one thing that tells you that, right, in 130 games over the past 2 years, 31 home runs.
No, there you go.
He's hit 4 in 44 games.
Ugh.
Just under a third of the games, and he's not even close to a third.
Yeah.
Right? It's not looking good for him. It's not one of those things that you want to see. And there is questions. Is it the ankle soreness? Is he trying to play through that? It's just really not something that you want to see.
Well, one of the things that I did want to see was this here.
Relish finally
fucking won.
After 30-some home games, Relish won, and they went all out. You know this was staged when there's a Home Depot thing of Relish. You know,
yeah.
they
a 5-gallon bucket of Relish just so happened to go into the stadium that day? No.
And the other guy's holding like what looks like one of those vomit buckets that you clean up vomit with.
Yeah.
But I hope that was Relish. It's not vomit. Didn't mix up the bucket.
Yeah, it looks like some messed up Relish, man.
Yeah. But no, yeah, that was the exciting thing outside of Trey Mancini hitting 99.
Like I said, you gotta find the silver linings, the things that you can actually look forward to, and that's the crab shuffle, the hot dog race, and things going on at the stadium.
Well, and things that we can look forward to. Let's look down on the farm for a quick minute.
Yeah,
a few little things just throughout the farm.
Run down it, man. Run it down.
Position players are the talk of the town right now.
Good,
right?
It need to be.
Second baseman Jahmai Jones. He's at AAA Norfolk right now.
Why is he not here?
I have no clue.
Why is he not here?
I was thinking about that today.
Now he was sidelined for a month with an oblique strain. Maybe they're letting him fully come back.
But he has been hitting the cover off the ball since he's been back.
He's been back for a month, and he has been fucking lights out.
Yes.
And I'm sorry. I don't care if you're going nowhere. I don't want to hear the bullshit. I am tired of seeing Valleca and Wilkerson.
Yeah.
Valleca can go back down, and Wilkerson gets shipped to DFA'd, and then probably come back around because no one fucking wants him because he's not any good. Jahmai Jones, he's not any good.
Soul.
Fuck that. I don't care.
You just hurt Scott's soul.
If he learns how to be a catcher and takes tips
in the outfield, to your point about the Santander thing, in the outfield, if he's in the outfield, that play gets made.
But there's other fucking players that besides Wilkerson go away.
He's a better pitcher than Matt Harvey.
Go away. Point being, Jahmai Jones is doing really good. And if those are your two go-to second basemen, I'm sorry. At some point, give Jahmai Jones. He's one of these guys that are not like the
So
lower prospects that you expect a lot out
For
of.
those that don't know, Jahmai Jones was the piece in the Bundy trade.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just, I think he's due.
Yeah, and he's in his first 9 games back, he hit safely. He was batting .405, 15 for 37 with 2 home runs in that span. Overall, .339 in 15 games at Norfolk.
Yeah. Say that again. 405 since he's been back.
Yeah.
Bring him up.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, that one's good, Ryan. That's a good number.
And the other thing here, speed kills.
Yeah.
4 for 4 on stolen base attempts.
Oh, man.
Good
Yeah.
to see.
I love it.
We went to Bowie last week. That's why we didn't have a show.
We did.
We had a live segment-ish,
Yeah.
right? But I wanted to ask you guys, what did you see? What did you like? Any concerns when we were there? We saw Grayson Rodriguez pitch. We saw Adley Rutschman there at the plate. We saw some of the guys. Who was it? Tucker that hit the home run late in the game. So there's some pieces that are in Bowie right now that they're exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting to go down there to see all this talent. Grayson, he is as advertised as far as his ability goes. I mean, he was regularly hitting 98 to 100. There was one point where he hit 103 on the gun. Now, I don't know how accurate the gun is, but either way, 103 is pretty. That's
At
like
least be 100 though.
yeah, that's like Chapman impressive though. If he's hitting 103. He left some balls over the plate, got hit hard a couple of times, like 2 or 3 times. I mean, these guys were literally just putting the bat out there, and that's all you got to do against somebody who's throwing 100 mile an hour is put the bat out there, make contact,
it'll go.
and it's going to fucking go. And there was a bunch of them, or not a bunch, there was a few that went to the wall.
There was a few doubles, and that was the thing is they weren't hitting home run power on it. It was some doubles.
Good, Drew.
That was also some terrible umpire work.
It was.
It's the worst.
He
We're
got
ragging
screwed
that
a-
umpire
he got
all night.
screwed a lot by that
Awful.
umpire.
That's true.
He stared the motherfucker down too.
Yeah, he also graduated high school last week, so I can't.
The
hate on him
umpire,
too
that's
bad.
right,
Yeah. What I also liked, we mentioned Adley Rutschman. Adley looked like he called a good game.
Didn't look into the dugout once.
Nope. Validated my point that since day one, since he's been drafted to this team, he was the best defensive catcher in the organization, including the major league level. We saw that firsthand.
Yeah.
You guys went away and you didn't get to see this, and I was pissed off that I was the only one to be able to see this.
We left Fred by himself. Group of 8 people.
Ryan's fucking eating ice cream and French fry.
Funnel cake.
That's the
funnel
best
cake.
part.
Fries.
And there, Scott's gobbling 2-foot-long hot dogs. Like,
Hey, you took one of those and we didn't even see it.
Whoa, I didn't take anything.
Oh no.
Did anybody see him eat the hot dog?
Yeah.
He just went straight down.
I only let it out of the wrapper an inch at a time.
Oh.
So I let it out of the wrapper an inch at a time. Anyway, so they're all gone, right? And there's a runner on first base. A guy steals. And Adley throws the ball down to second base, and nobody's fucking covering
no,
the
we were
bag.
there. We were there for it.
Were you there for that?
He was
fucking
there for
terrible.
we were
Oh
watching.
my God. It was a perfect throw. I mean, he got out of his stance quick and he got the ball there quick, but literally the
He had
shortstop
the
and second
guy.
baseman, neither one of them knew what to fucking do. They're both standing there like, he had a guy by at least 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah.
But he struggled at the plate. He was
trying too hard.
He had a ton of opportunity this game. He had one at bat with bases loaded. He had another
do a
at bat.
double play.
He had 2 at bats with man on first.
He hit into 2 double plays with
Ending double plays.
yeah, he had another opportunity with a guy on second and third. He got out on that one. So I mean,
That was a pop out to first base.
he didn't hit great, but overall, his production down there has been very good with the bat.
Hell yeah, I mean you can't deny it. We didn't get to see it, but I mean he's hitting .317 with 2 homers, 19 total bases in the past 10 days. He's got 10 homers in 39 games. This guy is leading all the minor leagues in homers, right? That tells you something. I know the Ks are a little bit of an issue, but he's still hitting .297.
And I'm pretty sure at this point, he's the number 1 overall prospect in all baseball now because the guy Franco just got called up.
Yeah, Wander
He
Franco.
still counts as a prospect though, because he could always go back down. I know what you mean, though. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, he gets called up to the
You
major league
maintain
level,
that
next man up.
It's just like
Yeah.
Mountcastle's still technically a
so
prospect.
real quick,
but-
while the camera's on me, I found out, I don't know if anybody out in the chat can tell me, but the only way to eat funnel cake or funnel fries is with ice cream. That's what Ryan said. So if anybody else
amazing.
does that, I just want to know.
It's literally the
funnel-
fattest thing in the
amazing.
stadium possible.
I never seen that
The
at
funnel
Camden
cake
Yards.
fries alone were
I
amazing.
never seen that at Camden Yards.
The funnel cake fries themselves were good. You add ice cream onto it.
I need
Apparently,
Ryan's take.
It's orgasmic.
$1 for ice cream on top of these funnel cake fries. It changes the whole experience. Also, I was not drinking. I was driving the minivan like the dad, so I got my calories in the food way.
Oh man! Last two things real quick. some interesting news you have out of High A Aberdeen. Kyle Stowers, number 22 ranked prospect for the Orioles, third rounder out of Stanford. They've wanted him to get more consistent, and he has been over his past 2 seasons. 2 of Stowers' 6 home runs this season came last week. He's hit safely now in 6 of 7 games. Walked 26 times in 35 games. Can you say patience?
Yeah, he's been very good. He just got the call up to Bowie. He was recently promoted.
He's got the call up.
Yeah, he's a guy that you and I got to see when we went down there. Was it last year or the year before?
Yeah.
When he first got drafted, we were up there
who
watching.
are we sitting in the box with?
Chris Williams, another catcher.
Okay.
Fucking catcher.
But anyway, he looked good then. He's got good speed. He's got good instincts in the outfield. He looks like he has a decent arm. I don't know if he's going to be a major league starter, but if he's that fourth kind of outfielder, that rotational guy that can give you the versatility to be able to play all 3 outfield positions, when he gets there, that'll be good value.
He could develop, right?
Yeah.
That's something you could see him develop in 3 or 4 years. He could have the potential to be a starter.
Yeah.
Just not right now. We don't see the potential. And then the last one was the big move that actually happened in
a guy with all kinds of potential.
a ton of potential. Shortstop Gunnar Henderson. He was in low A Delmarva. He gets called up, but this kid is shining like the brightest star there is right now. 314. 4 doubles and a triple over the past 10 games. He leads the Shorebirds in nearly every single major offensive category.
Yeah.
This is why he gets called up. And I guarantee you, he's going to do the same thing at Aberdeen.
And what's crazy about this guy is almost all of his power this year has been to opposite field. I think, how many home runs does he hit this year? I don't know. He's hit what? 8 maybe? Or
8 or 9.
8 or 9 home runs. I'm pretty sure like 80% of those have been to opposite field. So if he's hitting that kind of power to opposite field, he starts getting around on these guys and he starts yanking the ball. And again, he's still super young. He's 19 years old.
And I'd have to go back and
develop and get bigger.
Look to find out if they were pitching him outside, because if they're pitching him outside, it's even more impressive. He's going with the pitch.
Yeah.
That is not major league bat at bat. That's a major league style at bat.
Another tidbit of information I want to bring up before we wrap this up really quick, and I thought this was interesting. Literally, like right after we left Bowie, there was like this article that was written about players in Bowie, like having to sleep in their cars and all this shit, and not having the funds to be able to afford like housing and whatnot. And Mike Elias came out like a couple days later and denied the article and said, no, we take care of our players and we make sure that they've got the accommodations and yada yada. Literally today, my buddy that I work with, I'm not going to give his name, but a guy I work with sends me a message, and he's a big Orioles fan. He just bought a house out in Aberdeen. Apparently, Aberdeen is doing this program where you can host players.
It's been happening for years.
I have never fucking heard of it.
That's why the article blew my mind, because I'm like, we've been hearing about host families for fucking years. It's not a new thing.
I never heard of it before, and I'm like, tell me more. So apparently, the manager, the Aberdeen manager, I can't think of his name right now, but went out to my buddy's house, interviewed him, gave him an oven mitt and a picture and some other shit or whatever. They don't pay these people.
No.
They don't compensate them in any way. But yeah, like apparently Gunnar Henderson could be his new roommate at his house.
Hey,
like,
Fred.
I smell an interview.
It's kind of cool, man.
My
thought it
neighbor
was interesting.
hosts them all the time. He's
Really?
ticket
I have
holder.
as much as I'm a baseball fan, I'd never heard of this until today.
Yeah,
Why do you think I'm trying to get the in-laws out so that I can get my guest bedroom back under control, man? We're like 10 minutes down the road.
Well, one baseball player. I'll move into that room. I just thought that was interesting, especially
wait,
at the time.
the catcher?
No, not that
We've been accused before.
All right, Scott, it's time for this week's Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. What did Jerry and the crew hook us up with?
So this is out of a brew out of Pennsauken, New Jersey. It's from Double Nickel Brewing Company. This is their Sun Surfer Summer Blonde. It's brewed with oranges and dry hopped with mandarina, which is obviously it's going to be a citrus style hop.
Can's got a cool vibe. Reminds me of my old softball uniform.
It's not Dr. Seuss either.
No, this one it's not bad. It actually has 5.2% ABV, but it has, when you first taste it, it kind of has like an IPA type taste.
Yeah,
you can taste the hoppiness on
That's
it.
the nickel.
It says it's brewed with oranges and dry hop with
mandarina.
I don't taste the oranges at all, really.
I taste the citrus. I don't know.
Do you?
What,
I don't.
More I've been drinking it. I got only a little bit left, but it's not bad. Make sure
I had high expectations for this. When I read the can, I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. And when I taste it, I'm like, it's okay.
You're so used to IPAs,
I guess.
That's all I can think of. I don't mind this. I think it's pretty good. It's not heavy like an IPA. It doesn't hit you hard. First tastes like it, but then it starts to get smoother. So make sure you head up to Liquor Stop, 1510 Conowingo Road in Bel Air. Tell them Birdland BS send you. Get your 10% off.
All right, Ryan, it's time for some Shell and Tell, some Terps talk. And there's been some good news going around the sports programs. We're going to talk a little bit about basketball first. I know we're still waiting on the shoe to drop for the big three that we call them, figuring out what's going to happen with Daryl Morcell. Is he going to come back? What's going to happen with Eric Ayala? It sounds like he's probably leaning coming back. Aaron Wiggins is the biggest question mark. Obviously, he's probably the most productive scoring player out of the three. He's probably also the one that has the most NBA potential, right? But what we've heard over the past couple of months was that not a lot of teams had him even in their top 64, which apparently what I'm hearing is his expectation and desire, if he's going to make that jump to go to the NBA, is that he needs to be a first round selection, which would be top 32. I don't know. What's the take?
We got a little bit of false hope because the original list of NBA Combine invites did not include him.
Right.
He did have a G League tryout this last weekend. Apparently, he did very well at the G League tryout, and he was in the additional invites to the NBA Combine. So the Terps fans got to keep sweating it out. I mean, this is just what it is. Nobody can predict this. We just saw a couple years ago, everybody thought that Kevin Huerter was coming back and that Sticks was leaving, and the exact opposite happened. So you can't predict these things. We have to see what happens at the NBA Combine, and then we'll kind of know.
Yeah, Kevin Huerter, in my opinion, was a little bit of a different case. There was a lot of hype around Kevin Huerter. He was Mr. New York basketball when he was in high school.
Yeah.
There was a lot of
Velvet.
There was a lot of big names, big GMs. One Magic Johnson that was watching him in high school. Kevin Huerter was more known in the NBA family per se than I think Aaron Wiggins is. Aaron Wiggins is going to have to make a big impression, I think, in order for him to jump from not even being in everybody's top 64 to being in the top 32. But to your point that we talked about earlier, all it takes is one team to give you some sort of false sense of hope or, a promise that they're going to draft you in the top 32, and then
and a promise is worth what? Nothing. So we got to see at that point. Once he announces, we will certainly be rooting in his corner and hope that he is a first-round draft pick because nobody wants to see a kid make the wrong decision there.
Well, let's focus on who's going to be here, right, moving forward. And I know we were looking at 2022 class the other day, and we just heard, unfortunately, we are now classless as we had our first decommit in a while.
Yeah, Maryland is classless. Maryland's lone 2022 commit, Paul Lewis, number 24 point guard and 169 overall, had chose Maryland over Louisville, Georgetown, East Carolina, and others, but he is decommitted from the program. Hearing a lot of this is kind of mutual. It was kind of an early commit. We were hoping the kid grew, hoping the kid developed, and then we kept recruiting other point guards in that year, and he kind of took a little offense to that, and we didn't want to keep all our eggs in that basket, and so we're hoping for bigger and better fish, but you never know. With all the things going on at Maryland, canceling the practice facility and losing Bino, there's a lot of things up in the air. Not that we haven't brought in very good replacements, not that we don't have haven't settled the coaching situation, head coach situation. There are good things, but you just don't know how this is going to affect the kids.
Yeah, I'm okay with this decommit, especially if we have some handshake agreement in place with some players that you might tout as being better than Lewis, and that this was going to potentially put him further down the depth chart. I don't respect that if he's like, you know what? If you're going to go out and get these guys and you've already got the commitment from these other guys who are rated higher than me, and that's going to cut into my playing time, I think I might have a better shot at committing somewhere else and getting that playing time right away. So I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it either. It all depends on what we replace with. Just like we said when Bino left, we can't judge this till we see the plan.
Right.
We got to know what's going on around here.
Yeah.
We mentioned Kevin Huerter.
Yeah.
Being a very Aaron Wiggins type situation. Kevin Huerter leading the Atlanta Hawks like a boss.
Red Rifle.
Yeah, my man, Red Velvet, Red Mamba, whatever you want to call him. He's red something.
Redheaded stepchild.
Kevin Herter, 6'7", shooting guard. He was a first-round pick by the Atlanta Hawks in 2018. 27 points is a playoff career high, only 2 shy of his career high of 29, which honestly, let me give a shovel to the Atlanta Hawks because Kevin Herter got you there all game. Trae Young did nothing. He had 2 made shots in the first half, had a couple sparing baskets around the second half, and then they let him drop 12 free throws in the last minute and 30 seconds, never letting Kevin Herter touch the ball. He's not a bad free throw shooter. He's an 85% free throw shooter. Why are you forcing it to Trae every time for that extra 2%?
That's the Terp fan.
Come on. It was 2 points.
That's the Terp fan.
I was sitting there watching that game going, he's getting his career high. He's getting it. And then we're going to give it to the guy that's missed every shot that game.
Trae Young right now is a top 8 NBA player in the league right now.
That
is
bottom 4.
Trae Young is what got them to where they're at right now, not Kevin Herter.
There's a clutch factor with Trae Young,
Yeah.
and you're going to go with that. But I do agree with him.
He hit every free throw, so I can't complain.
Go with the hot hand. I get it.
There is some thought process to that, but you have to look at the guy. The guy's clutch.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
On top of his 27 pounds, or 7 points.
27 pounds.
He had 7 rebounds. He was 10 for 18, 56% from the field, 50% from 3, 2 for 4. And he had 3 assists, including a beautiful pick. Danielle Galleri picked Embiid's pocket, knocked the ball loose, and Kevin Herter paid him off with a nice cherry pick dunk.
Yeah.
That was one of the most beautiful assists of the day.
Agreed. All right, let's switch over to the football side of things. We had some recent moves on the roster. We got a preferred walk-on transfer from Oregon.
Yeah, for June, this was a hot, heavy week for football.
It was.
Man, Harrison Beatty, it's a preferred walk-on, but he's from Oregon, big-time program. And he was a big kicker punter out of McDonough High School, so local, you're bringing the kids back. He was a 5-star kicker, according to Coles. As we talked to our Brendan Segovia, we learned a little bit more about these kicker camps. Coles is one of the highest respected things out there for the kickers.
I went straight to department store.
Yeah, exactly. I had no idea what any of this stuff means, but apparently he's pretty good. And if Oregon thought he was good enough, I think Oregon thinks he's good enough. And look at this kid. He's out there with the Nike money, playing and all their cool stuff, and coming back to this brand new facility. He's just taking the tour of America.
Now, does this put any pressure, you think, on our boy?
I don't know. I mean, he's a kicker / punter. From everything I'm seeing, he's brought in as a kicker more than a punter. So I think it's more of that side of the room.
Gotcha. Which,
of course, Pecorella said that he was a kicker until college, and they said, you look like a punter. So now he's a punter. So I don't know. But, depth in that area is great because we had that groin injury, not this year, but the year before. That kind of derailed their whole kicking season. We couldn't hit an extra point.
Right. That's true. Well, the next commitment we got was, and this is where I talk about the star ratings meaning jack shit to me, right? This was a guy that was not rated, didn't have any star ratings, wasn't on most big teams' radar at all, but he came in here on campus to a workout, lit it up from everything that we're hearing, and that's Caleb Wheatland, 6'2", 235-pound linebacker out of Virginia.
Yeah, this is a 2022 kid, like you said, out of Virginia. He's burst onto the scene recently. You got to realize that this year's a little different. I mean, there wasn't a lot of high school football, if any, for these kids.
Right.
These star ratings are going to be worse than they've ever been. They're always bad. Like you said, you got J.J. Watt was a 1-star or whatever it was.
Yeah.
They're not accurate. But this year's going to be the worst because all these kids, unless they had just serious junior tape, they weren't on the list.
Our boy Ahmed knocked it out of the park because literally the minute he got word that he was committing, he said 247 is going to make him a 3-star and put him as an overall rating of 85, and then he came in at 86 or something at a 3-star.
3-star.
I mean, almost nailed it to the T.
So he burst on the scene at the Under Armour Baltimore camp last month. His performance earned him a workout with the Terps. Basically, they offered him a commitment pending a workout. He came in last Wednesday, worked out with the guys, where he was obviously impressed by the facilities because it was only a day later where he committed to the Terps, not messing around. Yeah,
well, another position, and I think the most important position on a football team, probably the most important position in any sport, in my opinion, the quarterback position, right? We knew what we got going on this year with Talia. We've got, obviously, A.J. Swan coming in next year, under commitment right now. What's happening in 23? Well, we got our first quarterback commitment.
Yeah, Robert Champ Long, 23 QB. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds, out of St. Peter's Prep in New Jersey. Guy looks good, strong arm, seems really dedicated, impressed the staff, and they offered to accept the scholarship.
He needs to do something with that hair, but I mean, he looks good.
Yeah,
he needs to do something with that hair.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like Rattler. We missed out on that angry QB1. I don't think they're filming QB1 anymore, so I guess we won't have any more Netflix stars playing for us.
Right. Well, this just goes, in my opinion, to speak volumes of what that new facility is already doing. You're seeing the impact on social media. You're seeing it on Twitter. You're seeing what these kids are saying, the pictures that they're putting out there. Everything that we're getting feedback about this facility is making the impact that we hoped it would be.
Yeah, and you're seeing the commitments either like at or very close to the visit. There is not this long drawn out process. There's not this debate. Maybe something bigger happens. Of course, these kids can flip. These are just verbal commitments. Right. So it could still be a problem. But this is definitely, to me, seems different than in past years where it was more of later July, August type commitments if they were going to commit in the summer.
No rules. No boundaries. 2 topics. 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
All right, Scott, it's time for the 2 minute. I'll throw the gangs. I get it. 100% get it. We're going to fly through this, man. 2-minute warning. I haven't read the questions yet at all, so who's reading the first one off here to us?
I got the first one.
You got the first one. All right, yeah. Drew.
All right. So last week, or a handful of days ago, right after Kawhi got announced as being injured, LeBron, of course, can't keep his mouth shut, decided to come out with his opinion about losing superstars in the playoffs and starting the season too soon, so far after the finals because of COVID and all that stuff.
Right.
Do you think he's justified, or is just a case of like, well, if you're a good team, you don't really need these pop-up superstars that could get hurt?
So my take on this is the fact that he's saying this, but he's with the players union who agreed to doing this. They could have said they were offered no finals this year. They didn't agree to it for whatever reason. They decided not to. So you only have the Players Association to blame on this. You had the chance to get out and say no finals, but you were more worried about making the money in the finals than you were about superstars' injuries.
Yeah, I agree with this. This is just LeBron being LeBron. He is the voice of the NBA. This is kind of him just voicing his nagging opinion. It's just kind of how he is. I don't have a problem with it. I do agree with him that there's obviously a lot of injuries. I don't know if it's by chance or what, but there have definitely been a lot of big-name players that have been going down lately. So it's got to be brought up at least for conversation, in my opinion.
All right, question 2.
Question 2, do you guys think the NFL or any other sports have the right to mandate getting the COVID shot?
It's one of those fine lines. I get why they may want to do it, which is why I think they're more so taking the route of highly encouraging players to do it. But the NFL has learned before what happens when you take a stance politically, but also with the same fact that, you know what, these guys, it's HIPAA. They don't have to tell you whether they get the shot or not. You don't have to get a shot to play. I think I get why they do it, but I don't think they have the right to do it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the players last year were given the option to opt out of the season if they wanted to opt out, and I think that same situation should be granted. You know, if a player wants to opt out for the season because they don't feel comfortable with their personal health, I don't know if mandating is the right thing for them to do. I think it being encouraged, kind of like what the Ravens are doing now, and encouraging players, and most players are kind of following suit. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other whether I think it's smart for you to do it or not. That's your choice and your personal choice. I just don't think that it needs to come down from the top. That's just my opinion. I don't think it needs to come from the top.
Makes sense.
All right, Scott, sign us off here, man.
All right, guys. We appreciate you for tuning in each and every week and joining us with this lovely cast and crew. We're happy to be back in studio this week and not be out at the Bowie game, although I think I might want to be at the Bowie game this week. I think Grayson pitched the other day. But,
no after hours tonight. We're signing off after this.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Appreciate it. So make sure www.birdlandbs.com. You can check out all of our episodes, learn about each of us, contact us, get yourself some Birdland BS gear, which we're sporting. And by the way, shout out to Fred as a birthday gift.
Oh, yeah.
He got me the Under Armour hat. I had lost one just like this.
I got yours too, Chuck. It finally freaking came, so Ryan's got it there for us.
I'll forget about it, so call me or something.
There it is. So thank you, Fred, for that.
You're welcome.
What did you say?
My birthday's next week.
Oh, okay.
We got you a 200th episode.
Yeah,
there we go.
Next week, big 200.
Big 200 coming. Make sure you guys follow us on the Big Play Network and also on birdlandsports.com. Follow us on all of our social media pages. At Birdland BS is how you find us, whether
You too,
it's on
Justin.
Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, at Birdland BS is how you find us. Like, follow, subscribe, and share while you're there. If you want your opinion or topic heard on the show, send it over to us, comment in the chat, whatever it may be. We appreciate it. It helps us come up with ideas for the show. As always, be sure to check out the audio version of the podcast. Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever the hell you listen. I don't know why I keep saying this shit each week. Just go goddamn listen.
Right.
Make sure you tune in, as always, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday night. For Fred, Ryan, James, Drew, and myself, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.